Hello and welcome to Life Talk for July 16th, 2019. I'm joined by my usual suspects.
Yes.
Hello.
My daughter Sheila the Doppy
Yep.
and Renee Hobbs.
That's right.
That was a very drawn out hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
And of course joining us as always is Ernie, the frilled-necked Republican. And he's right in the same position. He moves
kinda
very
stagnant.
little.
Yeah. The only difference between him and real Republicans and politicians is he's reliable. He's always here.
That's right.
Unlike, them who you can't rely on.
Can't rely
so,
on.
Yeah.
Anyway, lots of things going on right now, and we're going to be talking later in the show about a new project we've just introduced, and we've got some other things that are on the back burners that we're going to be bringing out here very
They're
shortly.
kind of brewing here.
Yes. But we got one that we just released last week that's
Yes.
really getting a lot of attention, and I think has some real potential, so we'll be talking about that.
Okay.
First, I want to bring up, trying to correct a misconception that I see out there in the pro-life movement. We have this vein of thought, if you will, that the Democrats have really gone way extreme on the abortion issue, all of a sudden calling for abortions after birth and so forth. We need to understand, we're buying into their game by saying, oh, they're getting out here extremists. And then people like Nancy Pelosi look like the
Sane.
adult in the room,
Right.
Yeah.
the sane one, yeah.
They've always been extreme.
This is nothing new.
No.
The only thing that's happening right now is that you have these new people coming into the Democratic Party whose positions are exactly the same.
They're just now openly.
They're just now, they're not hiding it anymore.
They're competing against each other
Right.
to see who can be more radical left than
Right.
the other.
And so you have this kind of internal civil war that's going on between Nancy Pelosi and this Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ayanna Pressley and Rashida Tlaib. And these people are radical, godless Marxists, radical pro-aborts, who will tell you that, yeah, you can kill a baby. If a woman goes into for an abortion clinic and the baby happens to be born alive, she went in there for a dead baby. She's entitled to a dead baby.
Right.
The abortion should continue even
Give
after
her
the
what
baby's
she
born.
wants. Right.
And now you have this fight between this group and the Pelosi cartel, so to speak.
It's important that people understand that Nancy Pelosi believes what they believe
Yeah.
on the abortion issue. She just wants them to keep their mouth shut.
Right.
You have Nancy Pelosi over here is like, oh no, why are they saying that out loud? They're not supposed to. It's giving us, a bad rep.
Well,
They just
Nancy
need to
Pelosi
shut up.
believes exactly the same thing, and the Democratic Party has moved into this position. It's just these people are forcing them to admit it.
Right.
And what Nancy Pelosi knows, the only difference between these people, these godless degenerates, and the godless degenerates over there that are with Pelosi, is that this group is smart enough to know you can't get elected
Right.
by advocating these things.
Right.
These people are too stupid to know that.
Yep.
And that's basically the difference, and that's the core of this civil war that's going on in the
Well, they're trying to
Democratic Party.
normalize it.
Right.
Is what they're trying to do. And
People don't accept it.
yeah, it's not accepted.
It's not going to happen. And Pelosi understands that.
Yeah.
And I'll bet you that she has sat down behind the scenes with all four of these. They're now calling the squad, these hardcore leftist, Marxist, whatever you want to call them, communists, basically. I'm sure she sat down with them and said, look, you guys need to back off a little bit.
Right.
Yes, we all want these things, but we can't go out in public and say that. Our people cannot get elected. These people are in congressional districts where they can make these outrageous statements and get elected, but most Democrats are not.
Right.
Nope.
And Pelosi knows that, and I'm sure she's told them, if you keep this up and you force this out into the public,
You're going to run all of the Democrats.
we're going to
all
lose
the
control of the
liberals.
Congress.
Yes.
I'm sure she wants to tape their mouth shut.
I'm sure she does.
If only I could be a fly on that wall and see
Yeah.
what's going on.
But you know that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Well, and AOC, she is totally disliked by even her same people because of her radical agenda and
And the fact she's a moron,
yeah.
factors in there too.
Yeah.
When she first came on the scene, she was asked about, is Trump do any credit for the low unemployment rate? And she makes this statement that I was astonished at. My wife and I, Tulane, were watching the news that night when we saw that, and I thought, and I said, is this woman really that stupid? She said, well, look, the unemployment rate's only low because so many people are working 2, 3, or 4 jobs just to feed their family.
Right.
And I'm thinking, did she even take 5th grade math? Now, this woman has a college degree,
Right.
and is in the United States Congress. And the number of people, if the unemployment rate is 10%, let's just round it off. And that means that for every 100 people, 90 of them have a job and 10 of them don't. Let's say those 90 people now go out and all get a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th job. That doesn't change the unemployment rate at all.
Right.
It doesn't affect the unemployment rate. But the media lets her get away with this idiocy. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe she just misspoke. But then she says the same thing in
Then she
other
says
interviews.
something else,
Doubles
yeah,
down on
right.
this same thing. It's just because so many people have 2, 3, and 4 jobs.
Yeah.
And the media is not saying to her, hey, AOC,
Shut your
what
mouth.
does that have to do with the unemployment rate? It does not affect the unemployment rate.
Right.
How many jobs those people have does not affect the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is related to the number of people that don't have jobs.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Exactly.
whether these people will get reelected or not, who knows? I'll bet you the people that most hope they don't get reelected are the Pelosi Democrats, because these people are creating problems for
Right.
them. Major
Exactly. Yep.
Anyway, you had a couple of things you
I was
wanted
going
to
to
get
say,
to.
on a good note here, I got an email earlier this week, or it was late last week, from Connie Fry. She is a
supporter
of ours, yeah. And so she sent me 2 articles that came out of Ohio, which are so uplifting. One of them is a baby girl was born from a deceased donor's uterus. So in late 2017, this lady had passed away, and another woman was born without a uterus, and so they put her uterus into this other lady's. And in June of this year, February, no, in June, I'm sorry, in June she had the baby, and so the baby is doing great. She was born at 37 and a half weeks, so the baby's doing really well,
Right.
which is exciting. And then in another surgery, there was a baby that had spina bifida, and at 23 weeks, she had surgery on this baby, and in June she was delivered a very healthy child. I mean, she's still going to have some disabilities, but
She still has a right to life.
she still has a right to life, exactly. But
Well-
she's not going to have the issues that she would have had.
Well, spina bifida is becoming more and more common, number one. And number two, surgery inside the womb is becoming more and more common as well. And so you hear stories all the time of, doctors performing surgeries on babies who are still inside the womb. And, who it turns out they live a, healthy life afterwards.
The question here, let's say that a baby is in the womb. Now, that's just a fetus, right? That's not a baby,
Right.
according to the pro-aborts.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's still inside the womb.
Right.
All right, let's say the doctor makes an incision in the woman's abdomen, takes the baby out, and lays it up on her stomach, which is very often happens in fetal surgery. Now, is it still a baby?
Yeah.
I mean, is it still just a fetus, or
Yeah.
is it a baby?
Yeah, at what point does it become a
Right.
And-
fetus to a baby?
And now, let's say they say, okay, at that point it's a baby. Okay, but when they put it back in the womb, is it now a fetus again? So we can
yeah.
go back and forth?
Right. Well, and they understand that before they perform the surgery, they practiced for up to a year before they did, just to make sure they had everything correct and proper. They brought in a pediatric anesthesiologist. Why? Because the baby feels pain.
Right.
Yeah.
Hello, and they
Right.
do dilation, evacuation, second trimester abortions
Daily.
all the time, and these babies don't get this treatment that this woman got.
And when you say these babies feel pain, there's no reason to believe that these babies feel pain.
Yeah.
Except that when a doctor's performing surgery on them, he knows they feel pain.
Yes.
And so they call in, like you say, an anesthesiologist.
Right.
Why do they need an anesthesiologist?
If the baby doesn't feel pain.
And plus, you see ultrasounds all the time of babies, interacting with like someone pushing on the mom's stomach or, outside stimulus.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you, Connie, for sending those stories.
Yes. Thank you, Connie. And we need to send Connie a mug. Do you make sure?
We have.
Oh,
If-
you already have. Okay.
If you, for those who are watching, if you send us some story ideas or anything to talk about, and we use your idea, we will send you a free Life Dynamics coffee mug, or you can use it for tea if you're a tea person.
You can use it for anything.
Yeah,
You
cold
could put
drinks,
Coke in there
yeah.
if you wanted to.
Hot chocolate.
Whatever.
Yeah,
We're
it's
not going to restrict them to what they can put in.
No, and it's not the season for hot chocolate yet.
No,
That's fall
really hot.
and
Well,
winter. And
Yeah, it's supposed to be 100 degrees here today.
I'm looking forward to fall. Fall is my favorite
we
season.
don't have fall. We go from summer to winter. and
We
winter
have
to summer.
some fall, and fall is my favorite
right.
season. So.
Sheila, you're almost 30 years old. You've never seen a spring or a fall.
Yes, I have.
you haven't.
Yes, I have.
For about a week.
Anyways, it's kind of late for our first 100-degree day, so
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
we've
doing
missed a
good.
lot of 100-degree days that we
Yeah.
normally have by this point. So anyway, we're supposed to have the
That's-
first 100-degree day today.
Yeah. Speaking of Texas, 2 Texas cities. One has already declared itself a sanctuary city, and another one is now
For the unborn.
For the unborn, and another is now wanting to declare itself a sanctuary city. In June, city Wascom, Wascom, Texas, declared itself a sanctuary city for the unborn. The city is 20 miles west of Shreveport, so it's in East Texas. It's claimed to be the first city in the nation to declare itself a sanctuary city for the unborn. The ordinance was passed by the members of the city council, and it bans all abortion within city limits.
Good for them.
There was an abortion clinic that was thinking about moving into the city, and they're like, no,
You're
that's
out.
You're not coming.
Yeah, that's not
And now Mineral Wells, which is a bigger city than Wascom,
Yeah.
is
looking to become a sanctuary city. The city council is actually going to discuss it this evening during their meeting. But Mayor Christopher Percone heard about Wascom becoming a sanctuary city for the unborn, and he thought it was a good idea. And so now they're going to be talking about it in their city council meeting.
You know, I'm kind of partial to Mineral Wells. I lived in Millsap for about 6 years, and it's
Just right down the
about
street.
3-4 minutes away from Mineral Wells. So I went there all the time for six whole years.
And
Yeah,
so
really.
you have one smaller city that's already become a sanctuary city for the unborn, but now you have even a bigger city.
That's great.
Who's wanting,
Let's keep going.
and so people outside of Texas try to get your cities to be sanctuary cities.
sanctuary
We need to do that in Denton.
yeah.
Well, I don't think it would happen because of the 2 universities and
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
There's a lot of godless Marxists here in Denton
yeah, because of the
Unfortunately.
universities.
because of
but-
the 2 universities. And they rotate all the time because they either drop out or they graduate or they move on or whatever. And then a whole new crop of.
yeah.
And that's the problem we have in colleges is the administrations and the faculty. That's the problem.
I would say the professors are the biggest issue.
problem. Well, they're all worn out, drugged out hippies from the 60s.
Yeah, or the younger ones are friends of those.
Well, yeah. Anyway, all right. Listen, we're going to take a break for RoeBots, and when we come back, we want to discuss this new project that we're involved in, and I think it's going to be a big one. I think it's going to have some real impact. But anyway, let's take out a few moments for RoeBots, and we'll be right back.
In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion nationwide. The decision is called Roe versus Wade, and those who defend it are known as RoeBots. This is how they think.
Outlawing abortion will not end it. Women have always had abortions and always will.
First off, does anyone really think that the abortion lobby is troubled by the fact that laws prohibiting abortion won't stop all abortions? I mean, you'd have to be pretty simple-minded to buy into that. But the most important thing is, according to this mindless logic, nothing should be illegal since no law has ever totally eradicated the activity it was addressing. For example, we have laws against rape, armed robbery, murder, theft, and a million other ways that one person can victimize another. And yet, these things have been going on forever and are still going on. But according to the abortion lobby's bizarre rationale, since we should only implement those laws that are guaranteed to be 100% effective, then these things should be legal as well. Of course, that is pure nonsense. In the real world, laws are enacted because society has determined that the behavior in question is abhorrent, not because society believes that the law can completely eradicate it. Anyone with 5 brain neurons still firing understands that the passing of laws does not have the power to eradicate all evil any more than the practice of medicine has the power to eradicate all disease. All right, we're back. I have been sitting on a project for years, as you know. I talked to you about it when you first came here 8 years ago, dealing with the issue of reparations.
Which is a very hot topic right now.
It's a very hot topic right now because the elections are coming up.
Yep.
And what the Democratic Party does is anytime there's a national election, they start talking about reparations because they're pandering to the black vote. And the second that the election's over, they don't talk about reparations anymore.
And so what people need to realize first is these Democrats are never going to, they're not serious to reparations. It's just a talking point for them.
It's a way to reel in a bunch of people that ignore the fact that the Democratic Party's been doing this for decades and around election time, and then they ignore it when it goes away. But here is the reality. What the Democrats recognize, and I think everybody recognizes this. I've even talked to people as a result of MAFA 21 that are in the reparations movement, that are hardcore believers in reparations, who have told me they know it's never going to happen. Because you're never going to get the federal government to pass a law, Congress to pass a law, because every congressman knows I'll be out of a job next time, that says we're going to take money away from people who never owned a slave and give it to people who are never slaves. It's just not going to happen. So it's a pipe dream. And it's something that the Democratic Party uses to pander and get votes, and they're not serious about it. No, neither is anyone else. But there are reparations out there that are due. And we stumbled across this when we produced MAFA 21. The African American community has been devastated by legalized abortion and by birth control.
It's more than just devastation. It's been decimated.
Right, it has. And just using one thing as an example, of one issue as an example, there has never been a better or more effective tool for voter suppression than legalized abortion and birth control. Those have suppressed black vote more than any other issue. I mean, the Klan couldn't come up with anything better than abortion to suppress black vote and to get rid of the African American community. So these people that push abortion and birth control and target it at the black community, which we know for a fact they have. We proved it with MAFA 21. We proved it with our research into where the abortion clinics are located.
Right.
Our report shows that abortion clinics have been disproportionately located in African American and now Hispanic communities,
Minority
specifically for the purpose of getting rid of them.
Right.
Now, that creates a different kind of reparations argument. Because now you're not talking about getting reparations from people who were not victimized by people who didn't victimize them.
And something that just happened in the past.
Right, that ended 150 years ago. What you're talking about now is every African American in this country is still being victimized by these people.
Being targeted.
Targeted by these people.
Right.
And we know these corporations, these foundations, starting with Planned Parenthood, but there's a ton of them out there.
NARAL.
There's a ton of these groups out there. Big foundations, big corporations, Carnegie, all Mellon, all the other ones that started this with the specific intent of reducing the number of blacks and other minorities in America. They have been victimized, and these people still exist. The people that perpetrated this still exist. They have hundreds of billions of dollars in banks all over the world.
Right.
If you, one of them is Bill Gates. If you look
Right.
to his foundations and where he donates, it's for birth control and for
Primarily in minority communities.
Exactly.
All right. I started researching this years ago, and I think the timing is right for it now. That's why I'm just now putting this out. We passed in 1988, when I say we, I mean the United States government, and it was signed into law by President Reagan, what's called the Proxmire Act. William Proxmire actually wrote it and got it introduced into Congress, and it was passed. And what it was a response to an attack that was being made against the United States because we had no definition for genocide, whereas the United Nations did have one. And so what happened was the United States government took that definition of genocide from the United Nations and wrote it into American law. It's now federal law, and we cite it in the report that I just released. And it makes it a federal crime to target a particular racial or ethnic group. And one of the ways they say you can target them is by seeking to reduce the birth rate in those groups.
Yep.
All right. The fine or the penalty for violating this is up to $1 million per incident. That means that potentially every African American that has lived in the United States since Proxmire was passed in 1988 has a potential $1 million lawsuit against the federal government.
And just think of how many Planned Parenthood would be out of business.
Well, wait a minute. Let me back up. I said against the federal government. It's not against the federal government. It's against Planned Parenthood, all these foundations, all these institutions, all these individuals like Bill and Melinda Gates, George Soros.
yeah.
Just go down the list.
Yep.
These people have overtly, and in many, many cases, we documented this in MAFA 21, they have openly stated that their goal was to reduce the minority population.
They're part of the eugenics movement.
They're part of the eugenics and black genocide movement. So now what I'm saying is we can change the reparations model here. We can change the whole paradigm because reparations for slavery, where you're going to take money away from people who never owned a slave and give it to people who were never enslaved, it's not going to happen.
No.
But this can happen.
It's currently happening.
The victims are still alive, the perpetrators are still alive, and the perpetrators have tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in banks all over the world.
We need to go after them.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, and we sent this article out to many people, and we have several people, attorneys, that are looking into this.
Right. And I want to invite the audience to go on to read this report. It's relatively short because the Proxmire Act, I put the whole act in there that pertains to this deal.
It's more heavy reading. I mean, it's
It's not lighthearted reading, but it's actually very short and relatively straightforward. You can go on there and you can see what the potential here is. This is the way to get reparations. Because this is not reparations for slavery. It's reparations for the vestiges of slavery. Slavery created this environment, which we laid out in MAFA 21.
Right.
And it continues to this day. And again, the victims are still alive. The perpetrators are still alive.
This could put Planned Parenthood, NARAL, this could put the abortion industry out of business.
Completely out of business. And all these people that support them.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Gates would be hurt, like really
He didn't have
bad
enough
by
money
this.
to pay off
Yeah,
the suit.
no.
He's the richest man in the world. He doesn't have enough money.
They would be shut
Yeah.
down. Their influence would be nil after this.
Anyway, I want to encourage everyone out there to go to prolifeamerica.com. That's our gateway website to all our other websites. And you can go in at the top of the page. There's a button that says projects and reports or reports and projects. I don't know which one it is, but anyway, it's a little yellow button at the top of the page. You click on that. The first one is called Reparations Reinvented. This has enormous potential because it's real. Like, again, the victims are here. The perpetrators are here. The perpetrators have tons of money. The victims have been hurt. The perpetrators have admitted that this is what they were seeking to do. Everything's in place for this to become the new reparations.
And even if you are not part of the African American community or the minority community, you still need to care about this. This still applies to you. This is a human rights issue, the right to life issue. This reaches across, race.
Well, one of the things too that you got to understand is the money to pay these reparations does not come from the taxpayers. It comes from these foundations, these institutions, these organizations.
Which is why I said they would be shut down.
They'd be out of business.
Well, we need to fight for the injustice that has been going on.
Right.
And so that's,
Yep. And, the other thing I mentioned in there when I wrote this article is that if you read, what can even ratchet this up even further, is if you read the federal hate crime statute, it applies to this. It applies to this particular area of reparations. I'm not a believer in hate crimes. I think all crimes are hate crimes. I don't know how one person murders this person over here and that's a hate crime. This person murders this person over here and that's not a hate crime. I don't agree with that at all. But if this is the law, if this is what we're going to follow, then this area of reparations falls under the heading of a federal hate crime. That ratchets it up even to another level.
And for those that believe in social justice, the social justice warriors, they should be caring about this too.
What I want is to hear Republicans now, if we could get a few that aren't frilled-neck Republicans like poor Ernie here. If we could get some that really had the courage to come out here and say, yeah, I'm for reparations. Let me tell you what reparations we're going to get. We're going to get reparations from all these organizations that have sought to reduce the African American population and have in fact reduced the African American population, and in the process have restricted the voting rights of these people.
I mean,
it's the greatest tool for voter suppression ever invented.
I mean, even liberal sources have shown the rates of abortion being a lot higher in the African minority community.
And it was designed that way.
Yeah, I mean, even they openly admit, yes, their rates of abortion are higher. Well, there you go.
Because they've been targeted.
Exactly. There you go.
So anyway, two things. I want to, again, go to prolifeamerica.com, click on that yellow or gold colored button at the top, reports and projects, and read this report. And if you haven't watched My Alpha 21, you need to do that too. If you don't have a copy of it, you can watch it for free on our website. We don't charge anything for it. And we're seeing now, by the way, just in the last couple of days since we put this thing, we put it out, last Thursday?
yes.
And Alveda King is really pushing it, and
Yeah,
she's really
she's-
on board with us.
Right. Wrote a press release on it.
She wrote a press release
Yeah.
in mentioning this thing. She's the niece of Martin Luther King, and we've gotten lots of good comments from people, from especially the African American community. And there's, people, I think I told you I had a real long conversation this weekend when I was here with a former attorney for one of these hardcore left groups that left because of their stance on abortion. And he says, we never thought about doing this. He said, this is groundbreaking right here, I think is the word he used. He said, this has got some real potential.
Yeah.
And so we're excited to put it out, and we're excited to...
Yeah, Brother Johnny Hunter is behind it too.
Oh, yeah.
He's excited about it.
yeah, we got a lot of good support just in the last couple of days, because we just put it out Thursday.
Yes.
Actually, we weren't going to put it out till this week,
Yeah.
but we had sent a copy, a pre-release copy to Alveda,
Right.
and unknown to us,
She was going to put it out the next day.
She was excited about it.
she was
ready
excited, so
to-
she put it out. So then we had to go ahead and put the
We had
report
to,
out.
yeah.
So
Scramble to do it.
that was okay. We weren't going to put it out until Monday, but
Yeah.
she kind of called our bluff on it, and we had to put it out early. But anyway,
She's gung ho about it.
she's
That's
gung ho,
good.
and we're really excited about it. We think the potential here is pretty staggering.
Yeah.
None of these groups could pay off these lawsuits. None of these people have that kind of money.
No,
that
it would shut
pay.
them down.
Like I said, when you look at the number of African Americans that have lived in the United States since 1988, every one of them has a potential $1 million lawsuit against these people.
Yeah.
So for each
Awesome.
instance, it's
Yeah.
the potential staggering. Anyway, that's it. Y'all got anything else?
Nothing else.
Go and read that report, and let us hear from you what you think about it. We'd love to hear your feedback on it as well. Anyway, That's all we've got. Till next Tuesday, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We will see you next Tuesday.